When a plane crashes, the news is just everywhere. It's immediate, it's intense, but what happens after the cameras pack up and go home? Well, that's when a whole other story begins, a much longer, much more careful one. So let's pull back the curtain on the anatomy of a crash investigation and really see what goes on after the headlines fade.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's December 18th, 2025. A Cessna business jet is coming in to land at an airport in North Carolina. But something goes wrong. It crashes. The FAA quickly confirms fatalities. The weather's bad, and a witness, they say the plane was just way too low right before a huge explosion. It's just a tragic, chaotic scene.
So right in the middle of all that chaos and tragedy, this incredibly structured process just kicks into gear. And that brings us to the big question we're going to tackle today. When a plane goes down, what actually happens next? Believe it or not, the answer starts with a simple phone call and a team of experts getting ready to roll out at a moment's notice.
All right, so who gets that call? The National Transportation Safety Board, or the NTSB. They're the ones in charge. And let me tell you, they move fast. Within just a few hours of a major crash, boom, a specialized GO team is activated. We're talking about a group of top-tier experts in all different fields, and they're dispatched from headquarters, ready to drop everything and head to the crash site from anywhere in the country.
And once that GO team is on the ground, that's it. The federal investigation has officially begun. They are the authority there, and they have one single critical mission. Figure out not just what happened, but why it happened, so they can make sure it never, ever happens again.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. What do these investigators actually bring with them? I mean, it's not just a change of clothes in a suitcase. The official checklist for the person in charge is fascinating. Yeah, sure, they've got wreckage release forms and their NTSB credentials, but get this, they also have to pack a CD-ROM with the investigation manual on it and at least 50 business cards. It really shows you they're not just there to look at twisted metal, they're there to manage a huge, complex operation.
Okay, so let's talk about the crash site itself. This is where the first part of the investigation really happens, and it's an incredibly complex and frankly dangerous place to be. You're basically looking at a giant, tragic puzzle scattered across the ground.
And I'm not exaggerating about the danger. Just listen to this. It's a direct quote from the NTSB's own manual for investigators. They're walking into a scene with razor-sharp torn sheet metal and maybe even scattered hazardous cargo. Think about that. They're dealing with sharp metal, unknown chemicals, things that could still be under pressure, not to mention the heavy psychological toll. Their safety is absolutely number one.
So how do you even begin to tackle that kind of chaos? Well, the answer is you divide and conquer. The whole investigation is split up into these specialized groups. You've got the operations team. They're digging into the pilot's training and history. The structures group is out there literally mapping every single piece of wreckage. Then there's the human performance group looking into things like fatigue, and even a survival factors team studying how people could have survived. It's like each group has its own piece of this giant, complex puzzle to solve.
So after all the on-site work is done, the investigation shifts gears. It moves into phase 2. All that evidence they collected, everything from the tiniest metal fragments to the famous black boxes, it all gets shipped off to labs for some seriously detailed analysis.
And now, we get to probably the most famous piece of evidence in any crash investigation, the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR. This little box captures everything. I'm talking about the entire audio environment in the cockpit. Every conversation between the pilots, every call to air traffic control, every warning alarm, every single click of a switch. Just think about that. It's the closest anyone can get to actually being in that cockpit in those final, critical moments.
But here's the thing. Listening to that tape isn't as straightforward as you might think. This quote, again from the NTSB manual, is just incredible. It warns investigators to be super careful about associating generic noises, such as clicks, clacks, and thumps, with something specific. So they can't just hear a click and assume, oh, that was the landing gear switch. No way. Every single sound has to be proven and cross-referenced. There's a huge difference between just hearing a sound and knowing for sure what it actually was.
Okay, so months, sometimes even years have gone by. They've gathered all this evidence. They've analyzed all the data. So how do they put it all together? This is the final act. It's about turning that mountain of raw facts into a clear conclusion, and even more importantly, into recommendations that will make our skies safer.
Now, this is a really key part of the whole process that most people don't know about. There's a strict separation between two kinds of reports. First, you have the factual report. This is only the verified facts, nothing else. And it's shared with everyone involved, the airline, the manufacturer, you name it.
Then, and only after all the facts are agreed upon, does the NTSB create its internal analysis report. That's where they connect the dots and figure out the probable cause. It's like a firewall, making sure the final conclusion is built on a solid foundation of evidence that everyone agrees.
So, when you lay it all out, you can really see the journey. It's this incredibly methodical, step-by-step process. You go from the initial on-scene investigation to developing those factual reports, getting input from everyone, doing the internal analysis, all leading up to a public meeting where the NTSB board actually votes on the probable cause. The whole system, from beginning to end, is designed for just one thing: making sure we are all safer when we fly.
So the next time you see one of those awful headlines about a crash, try to remember what comes after. Remember this quiet, incredibly detailed search for the truth that's carried out by these dedicated experts. And it kind of leaves you with this one big thought, right? How many of these invisible investigations are going on right now, completely out of sight? And how many of them are the real reason your last flight was totally uneventful? Just another boring day in the sky.